All right, so we're at Gritney's Gym in Watford to train back today. So I have 2 back sessions a week at the moment. The back and shoulders are 2 areas I'm trying to work on to develop a bit more. And I think it's good that you focus on areas, and they need a little bit more frequency in order to do that. And then you'll need to cut back on the frequency somewhere else in your week so you don't overtrain with just more volume, more sets, especially if you're older, in your 40s or in your 50s like me. So start back there. Now, an old school brain still brings in the tried and trusted old school exercises. So today's back day is start on a pull-up. So a pull-up, I use an assisted pull-up to make sure you warm up to start with, because it's very difficult as you get older and you need to warm up. So if you just go straight on a pull-up bar without any lightening of the load, you could potentially injure yourself. You wouldn't do that on another back exercise or a lat pull down. So lighten the load for the first couple of sets on an assisted machine, or if you haven't got that, you could band your knees. So take some of the load off as you warm up, get that full range of motion, really straighten out so you really open up your lats at the bottom so they're fully extended before you come up and squeeze into a hard contraction. The big takeaway on back day is use some straps or grips. I use bear grips. Make sure that they take some of the forearm action out of the movement, and that you wrap your hands around the bar like hooks, not a thumb grip, a thumbless grip. And in every back movement you do, whether it's a chin up or a row, you're driving your elbows down. So in your head, you're not pulling with your hands are merely hooks that are taking some of the load off your forearm with your strap, and you're driving your elbows down into the pocket or behind you, depending on the movement. And so you're trying to squeeze your elbows back, and that will greatly enhance your connection to your back. Now, as the workout goes on, you'll see the first couple of exercises done exactly for that, to drive connection. And then the compound, more industrial exercises will follow after. So stay with me. Let's have a look at the chin up first, and we'll move on to the second exercise after that. So after doing chin-ups, I think another way to really ensure is stimulate and really wake up that lat muscle, that big back muscle that's behind you. And for a lot of people, very hard to feel you activate and work. People tend to just be pulling with their shoulders or their arms. So by doing this combination, this is something I've worked with for many years, and lots of my clients have done this superset combination of a straight arm pull down, which many people feel it more in their lats than, say, a traditional dumbbell pullover. Get a big stretch in your lats in this movement, and then pull down, and as you bring the bar down straight in front of you, should be rising your chest to meet it. So we can get a full stretch and a full contraction, driving your elbows behind to stretch out that lat. Then immediately when you finish your set, and I'd be looking for somewhere between sort of 12 to 15 reps, move on to your favorite lat pull down machine. It can be a machine or a cable, whatever you feel works best to isolate your back. And that's key for when you train, is always do the movements that you specifically feel work massively well and you connect to. Even if there's another movement which is particularly known for being a great mass builder or muscle builder, if you don't connect with it, it's not great for you. And that's what's important. But don't be a big fairy and use the little light fairy machines because they're comfortable. I mean, use the machines that you really feel it connects and hard work in the muscle. So I'm going to move on to this prime lat pull down, because it opens up, the handles open up as you go into a lat pull down, which really helps you accentuate the contraction. And with prime, they're a great piece of kit if you've not used them. They allow you to change the load, the angle of the load through the movement. So we can start with a very moderate angle where it's a traditional load, pretty even throughout. And as the sets go on, we can use like a mechanical drop set where we don't necessarily change the load, but we just change the load area that it forces us on, so we can work more in our strength position or our strength curve, which in this case is always going to be the start point, your strongest. You'll never fail to pull a lat pull down initially, you'll fail to get it down past the halfway mark. So the prime machine allows you to move that strength curve, so as you're losing strength as the sets go on, it'll make it lighter in that part, that hard end of the set, but make it heavier in the start of the set, start point of the rep where you're strongest. So I'll show you what I mean when we go on to the set. So on setting 1, this is keeping an even load throughout the whole movement. So it's very even, and as most machines would be. If, however, you tire with a similar weight and you want to do another set without lightening the weight, you can simply move it to setting 5 here. And what that'll do is that'll heavy the load slightly at the start where you're stronger, and it'll slightly take off as you complete the full rep. So that allows you to carry on the form. And then on my 3rd set, I'm going to move it to number 3, where it's particularly heavy at the start of the load, but very light at the end of the range. And so you're always strongest at the start position, and we're weakest trying to complete the rep. So this allows you to work with your strength curve and finish more reps with the same weight without doing a lighter load, just using the strength curve and working with the machine. All right, so now the lats are very fired up. So I can almost feel my lats under my arms. Now if you can see that, but they feel like they're really pumped up, sticking out under my arm. So now when we transfer that pump, so pre-pumped or pre-fatigued muscle into the harder sets, that muscle will have to engage more, and you're more likely to have the connection to the muscle. So that's what I think is one of the great ways to try and bring up your back if you're one of these people that has no connection. Use 1 or 2 exercises earlier on in the workout to get that connection in, that muscle engaged, and then you'll be able to link to it more easily between your mind and the muscle. So now we're going to go on to what's almost another forgotten movement in this day and age. It's a dumbbell row. I mean, dumbbell rows were staples of exercises. One of the best back exercises probably, where you can isolate one side of your back at a time with a decent weight. And nowadays there's just so many amazingly comfortable machines to sit on that replicate a 1-arm row. But I still think using free weights is important in combination with machines and cables, so we get a well-rounded physique. But also I think free weights create more density in the muscle, that harder grainy look. Cables do the refining, give you the shape, the icing on the cake. And I think machines are fantastic to use when you've either got an injury or the muscle's fatigued and tired, and you can use the machine to help guide the movement and carry the workout on. So machines nowadays have come a long, long way from where they used to be, and so machines are fantastic. I use lots of machines. As we get older, unfortunately, free weights can tend to destroy our tendons and ligaments more, so we still have to be aware of that when we use free weights. But I would still encourage anyone that's over 40 or 50 like me to still try and embrace the pain of a dumbbell or a barbell at time to time. So we can use dumbbell row, 1 arm at a time. To show you how I do this, and I brace my arm against the other dumbbell rack, so we keep our back at a pretty parallel position to the floor. And what we want to do is drive that elbow behind us, thinking about the elbow, driving it back, but not twisting the body as we come up, not twisting the body. That's where a dumbbell row fails for a lot of people, is people can't keep their form, their technique. And in that case, if you can't master the technique, a machine that's got a chest plate that you brace against that stops you pivoting off of it, or should do, but lots of people still cheat on them, that can be a better alternative because you're going to isolate the muscle more. But if you stick with learning the movement and just have a copy of some of these pointers and cues I give you here, you'll probably be able to pick this up very well. So bracing against the dumbbell rack is more of an advanced way to learn than I would say give one of my clients as a beginner, where you'll typically see people put a hand and a knee on the bench, because that pretty much keeps your back in that flat neutral position. So it's a good way to start to learn the movement. But actually I feel that you'll feel it more if your body's at a slight angle, it's not dead flat, and using the brace against the dumbbell rack gives you that angle. So have a look at this and see what I mean. so now we've had that warm-up set, we're going to go into a top set. So a top set somewhere between 8 and 12 reps, keeping that form. Nice strict form. Try and pause for momentary half a second in both end ranges. That'll stop you throwing the weight around and using too much weight and not thinking about driving your elbow back towards your hip. So bringing your elbow back slightly on this. Then the next set, we're going to do a back off set. Now, a back off set, that term is roughly where you're going to take about 20 or 30% of that load away from what you've just done. So if you were doing like a 30 kg dumbbell row, you'd probably bring that down to like a 27.5 kg. So you just take enough weight off so you can at least get similar reps again, or ideally 1 or 2 more with good form, because your body normally tires after a first hard work set. If you go to failure, you'll normally always lose 1 or 2 reps if you were to repeat with that same weight. So this allows us to mimic the same amount of reps, or maybe get 1 or so more by keeping good form, making sure we're not losing that, which some people will do if they just continually use the same heavy weight and get less and less reps. They tend to throw weight around to try and get the reps up, when really they should have done a back off set to keep control. Not about weight necessarily in bodybuilding. Form's got to come first and then build progressive overload and weight upon that. Now, once we've done that back off set to failure, we're going to do a triple drop set here. So that first set goes to failure, and we drop the weight about 20%. So again, if we was using 30 kilos, we'd drop down to a 27 kilo dumbbell. We'd go for failure again. Now, failure here shouldn't be like another 10 or 12 reps. If you fail properly with that one arm row and you drop down only 20%, you may only get 4 or 5 more reps out. And that's what I see where people do drop sets going wrong, is they just merely stop at the number in their head that they were aiming for in that first set, whether it's 10, 12, 15. But if they didn't go to failure, so they could have done more if they needed to, but because they know they're doing a drop set, they think, oh, that's enough, I'll stop and save myself for the next 2 drop sets, where that's wrong. What we want to do is go to complete failure and exhaustion on the first set, take 20% of the load off, so you might only grind out maybe 3, 4 or 5 more reps. Drop 20% again, because this is a triple drop set, and then we'll go ideally grind out another 4 or 5 reps. The icing on the cake here is taking each set to failure. It's not about doing reps for reps' sake. It's not by doing 3 lots of 10 as a drop set, because 30 reps really isn't going to build much muscle. Well, ideally, the whole circuit here, or the whole round of drops on one arm, should somewhere be around 20 reps in totality. Maybe 8, maybe 4, maybe 3 in each drop, and then you're hitting somewhere about 15, 16 reps in total, but you've worked to muscular failure 3 times within. So it's a very intense way of taking that final set to failure. I wouldn't do it on every set. I wouldn't do it on every exercise. I would do it on the last set of 1 or 2 exercises, maybe on that body part through the whole workout. If you start doing it on everything, you'll soon cripple yourself and actually overtrain and break the muscle down so much that it doesn't come back and get bigger, especially if you're in your 40s and 50s. You want to stimulate, not annihilate. Now them dumbbell rows are done, and that drop set there takes a wind out your sails. But I think it's great. Any exercise that gets you puffing when you're bent over or working hard, I think it's a good exercise. It releases a lot of hormones, a lot of growth hormone through that sort of exercise, far more than, say, a single arm D-handle lat pull downward. Now we're going to move on to a machine row now, because at this time your back's getting tired. Doing a machine allows you to keep concentration, keep form, keep connection. So at this point, I would choose a machine row that you really connect with, chest supported, where you're bringing it towards you. Now at Gritness Gym where I am, we've got tons of great back equipment, but for this particular one, because I'm going to do a rest pause set on it, it really is about just finding the one that you connect best with. And ideally on rowing machines, I actually think it's better to do them unilateral, one arm at a time. You always get a better connection with your back, especially when it's a hard area to connect to for some. However, this is a final kind of rowing movement, and I want to use a double hand on this, which is also very convenient if you're running and you push for time. You know, using two arm exercises will get you through the workout a lot quicker. So do bear that in mind when you're putting together your workout plan. But I'm going to use a prime machine again for the same reason as I showed you earlier. So a rest pause set is you work to failure, somewhere between 8 and 12 reps, absolutely fail. Rest 20 seconds for your upper body is a good rule, 30 seconds for your lower body. And then without changing the weight, just continue with that weight. And you might get another half the amount of reps is a good kind of idea from what you initially just done. So if you've got 12, you might get 5 or 6 after 20-second rest without changing weight, because your muscle hasn't recovered in that short rest period, but recovered enough to get an additional 4, 5, 6 reps. And you're going to rest again and pause for 20 seconds, and then again with the same weight have another go. You might get half them reps again, so you might get 2, 3, maybe 4 reps, so slightly less each time. Again, our overall rep range for all 3 of those sets combined would be about 20 reps or less, so that's ideal. If you're doing 30, 40 reps, you've not gone to failure again on that first initial set. The first set's important. What I want you guys to remember at home is, if you're doing a drop set or you're doing a rest pause set, you're taking a set as an intensifier and there's more to come, don't worry about the more to come. But give your everything to that first part of the set, that first set, like you would any single set that you do or should do as your work set. Because then what you do on top of that, after that, is a bonus. It's additional stimulus that you've not done. If you take that first set to a number, but you could have done more, and then you just do another number and another number, just for argument's sake, you're just going to build some stamina of the muscle. You're not breaking the muscle down enough to want to grow back bigger and stronger, because you've forced it to that point of failure and then failure again. So we're going to do a rest pause set now. I'm going to use a prime machine. If it gets taxing, I can change the strength curve on it, as I did there on the lat pull down, to enable me to keep going. So that's the benefit of prime. All right, let's see how this one goes. Okay, so moving on to lower back now. So as anyone knows at home, I broke my back about 20 years ago from a motorbike accident, and it took me a long time to rehab my back. So you can't actually go too heavy on lower back stuff, and actually things like deadlifts cause all the pain. So I've still got 2 herniated discs that I've got to live with. But I try and strengthen the back as much as I can, and I also use an inversion table every day, every morning at home to open up my vertebrae. If any of you suffer with sciatica, it's a massive tip there. They're about £100 on Amazon, but absolutely changed my life. I was living in pain with sciatica for probably 15 years, spending fortunes on osteos, and none of it really helped. But the inversion table every day just opens up and extends your spine, so your vertebrae can breathe again. So, but I also do lower back work, but I'm very careful with how much I stimulate and push it. And when you're coming back from rehabbing the lower back, especially from something as severe as a broken back, you have to take a little baby step every week or so and just see how you feel, not necessarily at the time, but the days that follow will be when you'll really notice if there's an issue. So what I'm doing here is the back extension, or hyperextension you might hear it called, and coming up to a hold, a contraction hold, that high point where it's engaging your lower back. I'm going to sit there and hold at the top, squeezing my lower back and my glutes for about 60 seconds. And what it does, it obviously exhausts your lower back and pre-fatigues it. So when I go into the lower back extensions, I haven't got to use much weight. I can be safe on my back, but it still fatigues it and it fails because I've pre-exhausted it in that hold. So this is something that I've used over the course of rehabbing my back. And then as you get stronger, and if the weeks are good, add a little 5 pound or 10 pound dumbbell, and then take the weights up from there. And what I would do here is use the hold, then onto maybe a 10 kilo plate. Then when that becomes very difficult, drop the plate, keep the form, and do maybe similar amount of reps again. So ideally what I'm looking for is a 60-second hold, a 10 rep with a weight, and then a 10 rep without a weight. Somewhere around there, being mindful not to push it too far and make sure form's always the master here. This is the last back exercise. Then what we'll do is a couple of hanging leg raises to help open up the back, stretch the back out, because it does become very pumped, and also get some ab work in before finishing off with a big round robin on the biceps. So stay tuned. Alright, so that's the training day finished. Lovely and jubbly. So it's very hot today, but we're going to finish off after the workout with some cardio. And I think it's important 2 or 3 times a week if you're a man over 40 that you get some hot HIIT cardio in to help boost hormones, to help stimulate metabolism, drop body fat, and also it's very good for your blood thickness. It's very good for your cholesterol. It's very good for your heart and your lungs. We're going to do a minute hard on the treadmill, on the stepper, not the treadmill, on the stepper, my nemesis, and then a minute recovery pace. So we're going to go between a minute on level 12, like going hell for leather, minute on level 6, catching your breath, repeat. Now I hate cardio, who doesn't? But the takeaway, the get off, the result, the health side of it has allowed me to bodybuild for 30 years and stay very healthy on the inside. So I also do cardio for 30 to 45 minutes every morning. So slow and steady, list cardio, heart rate at 120 beats a minute in the morning before I eat my first meal. And then hard cardio 2 or 3 times to follow.